So as the guy who puts this all together, how excited are you for this weekend?
Oh, I'm very excited. I wouldn't say that we're saving summer, but it certainly is puts an exclamation point on summer. Summer started early. Mario Brothers started in really late spring period, and it blew the doors out. Couldn't believe it. We were very surprised. There's an old saying in the movie business that every movie is R&D except for a sequel. You just never know, and even the sequels these days, you never know how they're going to do until they open, and. It was so Super Mario was great. So some movies really worked fantastically. Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse. That was a great movie and did fantastically. There were some other movies, they shall remain nameless, that didn't perform as we expected, but still performed pretty well. And so for us, it's a business not of individual movies, but of the collective. But I'm gonna tell you, having Barbie and Oppenheimer following Dead Reckoning last week, I mean, there's a lot of where there's going to be a shortage of popcorn seed.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm kidding.
You never run out of popcorn.
You just scared him.
We don't. Yeah, no. I was like, oh, they'll be in the paper tomorrow. There's a shortage of popcorn seed.
No. There's plenty for you. Just talking about it makes me smell it. But the Marcus Theaters do something that I love. I love a theme party. So when Downton Abbey came out, I went to one of those big Downton Abbey hat party extravaganzas. And last night I was tempted to go, was the big Barbie extravaganza.
Oh, I saw the pictures from it last night. It was great. Actually, it is something we do, and I think we're pretty good at it. We call it showmanship in the business. And we actually had to talk Warner Brothers into letting us have extra prints to have these parties. And so we went all out. I mean, I saw a picture from the Majestic in Brookfield where we had a Barbie box, like with the clear plastic, but it was life size and you could stand inside of it.
Yeah, I saw people tweeting out those pictures last night.
Yeah, it was great. People had a great time. In fact, I got to take umbrage with, I think it was Eric, but I don't want to blame him because I don't know who was talking in the show right before you guys came on. And he was talking about, he says, Oppenheimer's got great reviews. Barbie's mixed. No, Barbie's really getting great reviews. Are Oppenheimer's reviews a little bit better? Yeah, but it's like an A+ for Oppenheimer and an A for Barbie. I mean, it's Metacritic must see. Barbie is. It's 89 on Rotten Tomatoes. The users. I mean, both those movies are absolute must sees.
Is it by plan that they both came out the same weekend? Because that seems like sort of two very different movies.
Yeah, well, I think actually that was the thought. A little bit of counter programming. That they want to get it in earlier. You don't want to get too much later in the summer. You start running out of runway, so to speak. And they figured they were counter programming. I don't think anybody thought, oh yeah, this is going to be the movie that people want to see both. But I know I do, and I'm hearing from so many people, and we've sold a bunch of tickets for both. We have a Barbenheimer. We have a Barbenheimer Passport, and you can buy a passport that gets you into both. And it gets you a free pink cotton candy for when you go see Barbie, and it gives you some Cheetos when you go see, like some Flamin' Hots when you go see.
That's clever. Very clever.
Yeah, I wondered
would
you tie into an Oppenheimer movie. It's a little dangerous.
Yes.
So with this big weekend, this is a question I've asked you before. You and I started talking around the pandemic. We were talking about that impact, which was significant on not just the theater business, but everything. And you've rebounded nicely. But are we back? Are we still kind of figuring things out?
We're not back yet. We're definitely, it's not existential anymore. We're not wondering. I'll tell you, it was an interesting story. Because the depths of the pandemic are pretty scary. We've never all been closed before, and. Clearly, let me tell you where we are. Hotels are back. Those are back. We're back to where we were. We had a record year last year. The theaters, it's all dependent. Where I said, we don't know what's going to work. It all comes down to the number of releases. Somewhere around 125 releases a year. That's really our sweet spot. And if you just do less, once you get to more than that, I'm not sure that you're going to get the numbers as much. But below that, the less films we have. So like last year in 22, we had 65% of the number of typical releases, and we did 65% of the box office. Now for us, someone's got to show up and they've got to pop the popcorn and turn on the lights, and we've got to plow the parking lots in winter and turn on the air conditioning in the summer and have someone there to take the tickets, whether one person shows up or 1,000 people show up. And so that means it's a high fixed cost business. Our last customers are really our most profitable. So when we lose those customers, for us, that's challenging. But so this year we're up over 22 and about 15 to 20%. And we'll continue to grow. Part of it is just the number of films and getting them through post-production and getting them done. And the pandemic put a lag into everything and having less people. But the part of the story, I'm going to tell you this one interesting story. So in the pandemic, we were, there were some very nerve-wracking periods. And in the spring, I went to go ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. And someone who asked me and said, hey, we support, not our company, but someone said we support Child Abuse Prevention Month. We'd like to ring the bell at the Stock Exchange to be promoting it. Would you go in and be a part of that and sponsor us, because you're a New York Stock Exchange company and you have to have a sponsor company to go do this? Sure. Now, I had so much going on, I wasn't even thinking about it, and I'd rung the bell before, and I just it just came up upon me. I get there, and all of a sudden I'm standing there, and I'm getting emotional because I'm thinking, wow, okay, it's not existential. I'm not worried about our existence. We're back. We're coming back. The business is coming back. I didn't realize how meaningful it would be to ring that bell, and it really was, and it was a special moment, and so I'm glad I got to talk about it.
Well, and that's a big deal at your level, being a president and CEO of the Marcus Corporation, for you to experience that right. I think a lot of us think, when you're at that high level, you're not, quote, on the front lines, and you're not doing the work on that level, but you don't realize when you muscle through and you create those strategic plans to get through such a challenging time in the pandemic, not just for movie theaters, but for the hospitality business and all the other layers of what you do. It's interesting that you just felt this relief, this real emotional, because you just put your head down and do it. And I know that you have employees counting on you, like all that weight. So to experience that moment as you look out, that's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it was when we were in the depth of it. I mean, yeah, you're right. You just plow your head for you maintain a positive attitude. We talked about it. It's the things we're seeing right now. And I say I was the word, schadenfreude, taking pleasure in the misery of others. I said I was the poster child for schadenfreude for everyone that wanted to hear what was going on during the pandemic. How are you doing? We're okay, but I think they were like, you're in a worse place than we are. But there were some nerve-wracking times during that. You just had to, if you're human, you wonder. And so I didn't really think about it much after. We sort of got through it. But when I was sitting there and I was like, okay, this is cool. I wasn't worried, or I wasn't sitting there in the middle of it thinking, when am I going to ring the stock exchange bell again? But when I got there, because that's the symbol of capitalism, right? That's ringing that bell. And yeah, it was cool. Can
you tell us how grim it ever really got during the pandemic? What kind of serious decisions you were possibly facing?
We had this. The grimmest part was laying lots of people off. Again, I always had this core belief, and I referred to it, but I didn't actually finish my thought, which was people want to be together. They want to experience. Look at what we're doing today. We're here today because we're having a Barbenheimer weekend. Right. Everybody is into Barbenheimer. Everybody's into Barbie. All this is going. Everyone wants to see Oppenheimer. The Sound of Freedom has been a huge movie. People
surprising in some ways.
In pretty much every single way you could imagine, except for people that made it. I'm sure those knew it was going to be huge. But we've had so many. People want to experience things together, and I was core to that. That was my core belief, and I said it a million times during the pandemic. I said, "Look, we don't have a lot of debt," which was true. That's our company. We don't carry a lot of debt, and so in the end, I know we're going to be okay, and I believe that in my heart. But again, you've got to be human, and so you got to have a moment of thinking, okay, well, I know I'm saying this, but I believed it, and we're here.
He is Greg Marcus, President and CEO of the Marcus Corp. and Barbenheimer Weekend, as we're talking about.